So we're at the last stage of warping the loom. This stage involves tying all my warp ends in small groupings onto my front apron bar, which is connected with textile cords to the cloth beam. The cloth beam is really what allows me to tension everything up. The cloth beam has a ratchet gear on it. A ratchet dog locks the beam in place, and the ratchet advance lever lets me tighten up tension or advance the warp when I've woven far enough that I'm too close to the beater and I'm not getting a good fit. So at this stage of the game, I find it easiest to work with my front apron bar just sitting in the trap that's on my loom. I try to keep my trap clear, generally speaking. It's just for shuttles and apron bars. I have another table for scissors. I could also put things in my high castle tray. In this step, I am not going to try to even up the ends. It would be a miracle if they were even, because they've gone through a lot. They've gone through the reed, they've gone through the heddles, they've been wound onto the back beam. I would be stunned if in any of my groups things came out evenly. What I am going to strive for, and you're going to see this in just a second, is that I've got the same amount of tension on each warp end in the bundle. And if I don't, fortunately, that's really easy to fix. So even though I've got my apron bar in a trap and I don't need to do this step, I'm going to do it because I like, it just keeps the apron bar a little more stable. I'm going to take 8 groups of my warp ends. So that's 32. So this is an inch of warp width. I'm going to run them under the apron bar in 2 separate groups. And then I'm just going to tie an overhand knot just to secure them. That's all it is. And I'm going to work my way across the warp. So as I said, I'm going to go through to the other end. Here's 4. And then here's 1, 2, 3, 4 more. And again, good light is really important for this process. And I'm just going to tie on. And I'm not worrying about even tension. I'm not going to get even tension. I'm just connecting everything. And then in the next step, I will even up the tension. Okay, so I'm going to grab 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you might wonder, how did I determine that 4 was the magic number? I used a calculator. I like it when my bundles on the front apron beam are even. So I knew I had 520 ends, and that divides evenly by 8. So here I go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I could not, for some reason, or chose not to, or forgot how to use a calculator, if I couldn't get an even number on the ends, that's okay. That's going to happen. Weaving math is not always as clean as we might like it to be. And in that case, I would just not have my uneven bundles on the edges. And I just did something wrong, so I'm going to go back and undo it. The thing I did wrong was I needed to tie what's called a surgeon's knot. So instead of wrapping one set of ends around the other once, I just wrap it twice. And this has become my favorite knot. I can't believe I forgot to do it. Because it doesn't slip the way a single usual overhand knot is. So again, just to make it really clear. And you can see already my tension bundles are not showing up evenly, and that's okay. All right, so I'm going to grab 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So one group of 4 goes, the tail goes to the right. The other group of 4, the tail goes to the left. And I'm hoping my hands aren't in the way so that you can see what I'm doing. wrapping the left side around once and then twice, and then just tightening it up. And I'm just going to work my way across the warp doing this. It's a really fast process. It doesn't have to be super precise. The precision will come in the next step. The only thing I do want to do is tug firmly on each group of warp ends so that I don't have really uneven parts. In other words, that what's coming from the back beam is going as straight as possible and as tensioned as possible, not as tensioned as possible, but cleanly from the back end to the front end. So for instance, in this next group, I already saw when I stood up and looked at the yarn behind the castle, I saw that there were some warp ends that were far too loose for my liking. So this is the moment for me to just kind of work those through, work out some of the kinks, so to speak. And sorry, still have this nasty cough. 520 ends in 65 groups here. And you might wonder why not use a smaller group? Because I'm trying to cram the rep, this 16-inch weaving width, into 16 these sets of knots into 16 inches, which is a challenge. So I have to sort of find this happy medium between groups that won't take up too much width on my apron bar and will still allow me to space out the warp accurately. So you might say, well, why not use bigger groups? And that would be a bad idea, which we will see in the next step. So I'm just going to finish working my way across here and trying to make sure everybody's as even as possible behind the castle so that I don't have unpleasant surprises when I start weaving.